Hey there guys, how are you doing? Today I bring you the second interview that I had the pleasure of recording at the Europe Drum Show, and today's guest is extremely special to me, not only because he's an unbelievably skilled drummer, but also because he's an example for you and for me. He's one of the top content creators on the drumming community. He's probably one of the youngest drummers, if not the youngest, on every single drum festival that you can go, and he has played everything from jazz to metal. On top of that, he's also a terrific human being, and he has a quite unique mindset, and those are exactly the reasons why I think this interview was so necessary for our community right here. On this interview, we're going to talk about his beginnings, his illness and how he almost died twice, and of course how he used those awful conditions in order to motivate himself and become the drummer that anyone would love to be. But before I go on, I wanted to let you all guys know pretty quick that the necklaces are finally back on stock, and what that means is I'm going to be including one of these titanium necklaces on every single order, no matter the amount. So if you want to support the channel, please remember that you've got hats, sign the sticks, hoodies, shirts, beanies, whatever. And of course, every single order will include one of these bad boys for sure. And with all of that being said, let's listen to the wise words from one of the youngest and most talented drummers out there, Mr. Greyson Nekrutman. Let's go with this.
Hey there guys, how are you doing? I'm here with a guy that needs no introduction because you've been on my channel plenty of times. Actually, you are, I think, the only drummer that I've done a couple of reactions or three, because the first one I did in Spanish. And initially I was like, that's a pity, because the channel grew bigger and yeah. So with all of you guys, this is the man, Greyson Nekrutman, one of the busiest drummers nowadays and one of the most versatile as well.
It's my honor to be here. And
No, brother, it's super nice.
as you know, I really value our friendship that we built. So thank you.
Yeah, we're friends.
Thank you.
We're friends.
We're real life friends too. We're not just like Instagram friends. We're real life friends, by the way. So let's put that out there first.
That's amazing, brother. I want to start from the beginning,
Yeah.
because some people may know you, some people may not, but I want to know, with your words, how did you start, at what age, and what drums meant to you at that time?
Yeah, so I started playing when I was 4 years old. I'm 23 now. And when I started, so I grew up in people always talk about like a musical family and a musical environment. That's very like cliche. Like people talk about that a lot. In my case, it was interesting. I had an uncle who was a musician. So there was like music in my family, and then my brother, my older brother Gabe, I have two older brothers, but the middle of the two is a saxophone player, and my mom's big into music, and so the environment was pretty musical. My mom would put on a lot of music when I was little, and all different styles of reggae, rock, everything, and I was always around it. The first like big breakthrough moment was my brother Gabe was going to a pre-college program for saxophone, and his best friend at the time was the drummer of the band, and his mom became friends with my mom. And that age, 4 or 5, it is young to start doing an activity, but it kind of can be the time where like you give the child something that they can focus on or start to get interested in. And so there was zero expectations. It wasn't like you have to do this or whatever, but my mom was like, hey, like, Teresa said that, Victor's taking lessons from this guy named Justin. Like, would you want to like just try and play drums for fun? And I said, absolutely, sure. So as like a 4 or 5 year old kid, I was just excited to like do any activity. And I was playing sports at the time, and I was playing drums, and it started really simple and really easy. And it was just an activity to invest my time. Obviously I was young, so like time didn't really mean much, but at the time there was again no expectations, there was no pressure. It was just a really natural nature environment to grow up in and kind of just start to focus on something positive.
Okay. Did you start with jazz as well? I mean, were you the same drummer that you're nowadays?
I started playing, so my first teacher, Justin Gallo, he was a local drum teacher, local drummer, and still very good friends to this day. And he kind of gave me a basic foundation of everything. So it was like rudiments, basic rock beats, showing me the basic, records that every musician should know. And it was really nice because it wasn't focused on one thing. We would do like a few weeks out of like this book and a few weeks out of that book. And it was kind of a different, taste of every style and every playing, whether it was like, traditional rudiment stuff on a snare drum pad, or if it was full drum set stuff. And what I loved about Justin is as I got older, I realized that he realized he wasn't necessarily the guy to go in depth with anything, but he could give me a great foundation of everything. which was amazing because he was aware of that. As I got older, I went through a very, very challenging time in my life. At 10 years old, I was diagnosed with a very, very serious medical condition, and I was out of school, almost died twice.
Can you dive deep?
Yeah, a little bit. So it's this condition called achalasia, and what it is, it's basically where your esophagus, so normal everyday humans, our esophagus obviously pushes down the food we eat.
You go up and you need to fucking
So
pass it and goes that, right?
basically what happened was it was New Year's Day of 2013. The reason I know that is because I was 10 years old when it happened. It was New Year's Day, and I had a friend over, and we had pizza, and immediately I threw up, and I was like, oh, a stomach bug. That stomach bug lasted into like 2 weeks, and the doctor was like, we don't know what's wrong with your son, blah, blah, blah. It'll pass. It never passed. I was throwing up constantly. I couldn't keep any food down. But meanwhile, in that time, obviously I couldn't go to school.
Yeah.
So now the school is calling my parents saying, hey, your son needs to come back to school or we're going to send a home tutor. So they sent a home tutor. Obviously, I had no friends at the time. I was by myself in my house alone, like as like a 10-year-old kid. So all I did was play drums, literally all day long. And long story short of it is it was like a 5 or so year battle of health issues like related to that. And it got a lot worse at certain points. But all through that, I would practice on the pad and I would practice on the drum set. And when I was in the hospital, I had extended stays in the hospital. I would practice on the hospital bed rails. And that's when kind of I started to delve into different styles of music. And I mean, I was just bored. I mean, I had nothing else to do, no friends, no nothing. So music was, drums was like the only thing I had. So that's kind of like what made me who I am in a way. Yeah.
Man, I didn't know anything about that.
It's interesting because I've had times where I've spoken about it, never to this length, I don't think. I've hinted at it, like if you Google my name, it literally is like Greyson Nekrutman illness on one of the search terms because I've brushed over it. Yeah, because it's one of those things where I never wanted to be like a pity party. I never wanted to be like, oh, woe is me. But if anything, it's badass because I'm like, I feel like there's those people that you could tell they have like natural ability at something.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have to work hard for something. You can kind of get that vibe. And then you have those people like myself who I openly admit, like, the only way I can do what I do is because I spent so much time when I was sick.
Yeah.
I mean, what other 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old can spend like 8 hours a day practicing?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Most kids are in school.
Yeah.
So if anything, it was like a superpower. You know, obviously I didn't know that at the time, but as I got older, I was so lucky that that happened to me in the craziest way. Because, I mean, I grew up, I mean, at like 14 or 15, I was probably mentally like 20, 25. Like I was just so much older for my age and just not interested in anything my peers were interested in once I did go back to school at like 15 or 16.
Was that more or less the time where you started watching the big jazz masters?
So once I got out of the health struggles and kind of got my life back onto track, I was back in school, back in high school at the time. And it was the time where I was growing up in New York, you weren't just going to go to a jam session with a metal band. Yeah. Like there was no like, you know, it wasn't just like you're going to get together with friends and play rock. Like you could have, but if I wanted to just play something, you know, Wednesday night, if I wanted to just go hang out with musicians with my brother, it was jazz. It was automatically gonna be jazz, just because the environment of standards and jam sessions like that was just all fostered in the jazz culture. It kind of naturally led me to going down that path and learning how to play that style of music solely so that I had something to play with. It wasn't like, oh my God, my life's calling is jazz. Like I listened to everything other than jazz, but to play live, it was really important to me to learn that. So I did that for a while. And then it was really probably 17, 18 that I became kind of fascinated with that kind of whole entertainer vibe of those old jazz masters where it was like, they were like badasses. I mean, they were just like pure badasses and they were just had this vibe about them. They were so confident. They're so, again, they were like larger than life to me. And that's where I kind of took it. So like I would say like 17, 18 is where I got into that stuff.
Would you say your fascination, because jazz is something tricky, especially the people that have inspired you, I bet, like the Buddy Riches of your world, all share that common ground with you where it's not a talent thing, but a fucking hard work thing. Would you say that that old school jazz mentality has influenced you to even push farther and go deeper into the heavy practice stuff?
100%, because I've spoken about it in many different ways, but like the way I see it is like there's those drummers who take it from a very raw, simplistic place like those guys, where it's hard work, grit, determination, into that. And then there's the more like artistic, and I don't mean this in like a negative way, but the guys who are more like, it's the drums are speaking to me, and it's very like kind of that kind of like hippy dippy stuff. Yeah. And it comes down to even things like the gear, like the attitude towards just like, I'm gonna work hard and play and grind it out, and the grit versus like the worrying about like the subtleties of like certain things. So I think it was the attitude of those guys, where like I would see a video of Sonny Payne and like his tom arm would be falling down because it was like a Gretsch kit from the 50s.
Yeah,
he would play right through it, and he wouldn't care, and he would play better than anybody because it was his attitude.
You're right.
And that's what I took. I was like, I want to be a badass like that. Like I want to be so just like, F this, you know, just like right through it. Like
It's true.
it's just an attitude.
That's something that we're missing. I think it's disappearing slowly. That mentality that you have inherited from the jazz masters is not something that you find nowadays. I feel like in the, I don't know, metal world or something like that, people are so worried about, oh no, I need the direct drive pedal with the perfect setting, with the perfect trigger, with the perfect this, perfect that. Back in the day, it was like, no, I'm going to put it in enough hours so that if I go in and the pedal sucks, I'll go through it, this and that.
Exactly. And I had two moments that stick with me, and I'll mention them if you don't mind. They're really interesting because they're two different things. So when I was young, I'm sure you were probably the same way. Like, did you ever have that phase where you're like,
Yeah, like the perfectionist phase, yeah.
so I had that. And Billy Reimer from Dillinger Escape Plan, very good friend of mine. And at like 16, he was giving me some lessons. And he came over to my house, and I remember I was sitting in the basement, and I had my drum set set up. And of course, I was in that phase where, again, everything had to be perfect. And he sits down and he hits the bass drum, and he says, "Oh, this is just too tight." Because I mean, I didn't even know what I was doing by tuning. Like, I just had it cranked, right? And it's like, "Oh, too tight." So he takes the floor tom and he throws the floor tom, flips open the bass drum, and untunes it, untightens it. And I'm like,
Disaster.
I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna take like 4 days to set it back up, like the heights, everything. This dude pulls the floor tom halfway back, moves the cymbal halfway back, and rips that drum set the craziest I'd ever seen in person to that point, ever. Yeah. And that taught me the fact of like, he didn't sit down and take 20 minutes to set the drum set up. He just played. And then, so that was a big turning point. And then the other one was about the gear was, during COVID, I spoke to Louis Hayes, who legendary jazz master, that whole era of those guys. And he was in the thick of it, Miles Davis, like all those guys. And I was fortunate enough to have a phone conversation with him. And I'd connected it with him through, like, I think there's a nephew or something. And we spoke, and he had known that I was kind of like honoring like those guys' legacy and was into all that stuff. And we're talking, and then at the end, I really had like an interesting question. I said, you know what? I'm fascinated by your guys' outlook on gear, and just like we're talking about, and that whole attitude. I said, back then it was like you bought a Gretsch drum set, and you just bought the Gretsch drum set, and it was the same one that you played and he played, and if your kid had one, well, dad saved up or the kid saved up, and it was the same as the guy on TV. And I said, well, what about the sticks? And he says, he laughs. He says, we're all just using the same sticks. And I said, what was that? He's like, it was 2B.
Oh boy.
And so I, for a second, was like, Jazz Trio 2B. And I was laughing because I kind of was like, was it like a different 2B? Like, was like the definition back then? He's like, nope, same as now. And I was like, what? He's like, they're easy to get, and you can always play softer. And I was like, that dude's a badass. Yeah. I was like, that's a badass.
Fuck that. Oh, I would think that would be a joke. If somebody says to me, I would be like, yeah, no, for real.
Yeah.
And after learning about, I just learned about it, but after learning about the whole STIGMA thing, you kept fucking practicing as if you were sick. Like you started practicing less now that you could go back to your normal life. How was that change from I'm all day at home because, my situation doesn't allow me to do regular people things, and I can play more. You go back to your life, you still have that mentality of...
Yeah, because I remember there was a day, it was a very dark day, and there was a day when progressively as the disease got worse, I could eat less and less. And I remember there was a day where all I could eat was McDonald's milkshakes. Couldn't eat food. And my dad had drove to the nearest McDonald's and got me a milkshake, and I had it, and I threw that up.
Oh, fuck.
So I couldn't even eat that anymore.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in my room, and I was so upset, and he was like, you're either going to sit here and basically sit in your own, pity and feel bad about it, or you can do what's going to make you feel better and work harder, to make yourself better, whatever that means for you. And that was a simple lesson of just the same thing of like, it kind of carried me forward in the way of like, even if I'm better and I'm back in school and these things, I was so mentally, I think, messed up in the best way possible that I wasn't comfortable just being like, I'm fine now. I was, if anything, I was working harder than ever. I was so determined to just, I always, I already had that identity as like in my mind of like, I'm a drummer, like I want to do this. And when I got back into school, I was like 16 and I was already kind of like, this is what I want to do. And I was just always on my own ass about just working hard. And thankfully that never left. And honestly, as I've gotten older, I went through more challenges. That's always been the thing I go back to, always. I've had rejections, business-wise, music-wise, relationship-wise, whatever, and it's always just back to that energy. And I think that's what kind of makes me unstoppable, because like, if you don't have anything like that to go back to and feed off of, like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
For me, it's for that kid who was 10 years old and was in a hospital,
Yeah.
And was like preparing to die at one point. So like, what do I have to lose? Like, I've already been that far. So if anything, I'm just gonna push to go beyond everybody else.
No, and that's something interesting. Yeah, we were talking to Eric Moore, and whenever you talk to somebody that's like really fucking pro and then does things, in the best way possible, they share that mentality. It's like the common ground for all the geniuses is like, you face a bad situation, but this will pass and we will find another way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we need to fucking do this, brother, because people see you play, but they don't see the resilience that's behind it.
No.
It's really important. It's important to play paradiddles, but it's also important for people to know that some terrible things are going to happen to them. And I didn't know about this fucking terrible thing that happened to you. And you can use the drums as a refuge, to go there, and it's your safe place, and you go there, and eventually you get better, but still you have the discipline, and I want to go there.
100%. And it's interesting because I think it's funny to say this, but it's always like, people always like, oh, you're so talented, you're so this and that. And it's funny because I kind of cringe when I hear that, because I'm like, when people assume things about other people, it's so like surface level. People just think, oh, you're just talented at playing drums, or oh, you're just this famous drummer or whatever. It's like, do you know how hard work went into that? Like, do you have any clue?
It's impossible.
Like, how to understand the amount of sacrifice that went into that? I think it's interesting when you go to events like this and you see the top 10 whatever drummers on that stage, and you realize like every one of them has something probably similar in their life, or it's just it's a learning lesson for any career or any life. It's just happens we're in an industry where it's a very physical thing you can watch somebody do or listen to, and you're like, damn, that's the hard work that went into that.
Yeah, brother. No, that makes you humble. That's something nice to do, man. And yeah, people go with the talent thing, but you started extremely early. If you take all the hours, it's probably way more than it takes for regular people to get a PhD or anything. So the amount of fucking hours that you put, from that jazz background, you start with the videos, fucking ripping all the classics and everything, and you go to Sepultura. Like the switch, the amount of sheer fucking hard work that goes into that, because you were not familiar with that pedal at all. And I was just watching you play yesterday, and that was beautiful, but there was also some really hard double bass drumming. At some point you were with the snare drum and you were going as fast as you could, and suddenly you started dropping the bass drum, and it was also at the same speed as the fans, and it was fast, brother, and it sounded good. And I remember having a conversation with him 2 years ago, and he was about to start doing this, and look at him go now. Like, how do you accept something like that? It's the most intelligent and dumb thing to do at the same time, because I know you're going to get it, but the amount of responsibility and work that you need to put in order to walk out of that situation with success is ridiculous. How do you have that mindset, bro?
Well, let's put it out there for the record. You were actually one of the first people to ever know that was happening. And it's because I trust you. And I remember telling you that. Yeah. Remember? And we were both like, we should delete this text. Like delete the text. Delete it from WhatsApp. Like, man, it was, the funny thing you say, like, it was the most intelligent and dumb thing ever. I was explaining it because, like, I couldn't say no.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, like, everybody would be like, are you crazy to say no to the opportunity? But at the same time, I was like, I knew the amount of responsibility I was taking on, and the amount of shoes I was filling, and the amount of work I'd have to put in, and I had no clue how different my life would be and the path of my life, and it was crazy. I had, like, less than 2 weeks to learn the songs. I had less than like 12 days. I think it was around 12 days before I was leaving to a new country that I'd never been to in my life. Played songs I never knew in my life, knew nobody in that country. And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And it was just, again, like I didn't really play double bass. I didn't really, I mean, I could play the metal style with my hands because of Suicide, like I had the endurance, but it was totally different. Yeah. And part of me took the same approach as when I was learning all the Buddy Rich stuff, honestly. And it was to kind of dumb it down mentally. Because the way I can describe it is like this. When I was really young, my idol, and it still is my number one to this day, is Carter Beauford. Number one drummer all time for me. My favorite forever will always be. And when I was sick at that time, that's all I would watch was his videos. And I remember in my mind, there was two schools of learning something. The first school would be, if I want to play, okay, I want to play your song. Am I gonna mentally in my head get all my skills independently, independence, speed, coordination, blah, 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 up to the level where I can now perform your song? Or am I going to take your song, I'm going to break it down and just either make it really slow and repetition and speed it up and then play it exactly like you played it? Aren't I technically playing what you played? So I kind of did the same thing. Like I wasn't going to sit there and go, oh my gosh, now in 12 days, I need to get my double bass. I need to start working on my double bass drum chops as I should have been for 10 years or whatever, like, you know, exercises and stuff. No, I'm gonna play the songs really slow and work on those specific parts and the coordination to then be able to at least get by. And then when I had time off tour, it's like the first shows, it was like 6 or 7 shows in a row, and then I had like a few weeks off, and then like a month off, and then I had like 3 months straight. But it was like those breaks is when I can now add the practice regimen of like a metal drummer would be doing to maintain that. So it was kind of a mindset, because I knew like if I took it from the approach of trying to build all my skills to be able to then play it, it's too late, it's not enough time. Yeah. But if I just learn how to play the parts, and then when I can refine things, make them more comfortable, make them cleaner, and then practice to build my double bass drum chops like in my own realm, I'll be fine. So that was the approach I took.
Would you do it again? Would you put yourself in a situation where you have to learn a totally new skill now that you know how much it takes and the amount of pressure that you need to fight? Yeah, right.
I would.
Actually, you did the, if I'm not mistaken, the Trivium thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that similar?
That was a similar,
familiar with it?
that was a similar situation. Yeah. And it was similar, actually, time stretch for the show I did with them. And it was the same thing of like, I was like, here we go. Like, I just gotta, I just have to figure this out. And, you know, that was a great experience as well. But it's just, it's one of those things where if you let your fear stop you, then where else am I gonna go with it? Yeah. Because I can always be freaked out. You can always freak yourself out. Yeah. You know, and I always go back to like when I was 18 or whatever, when I was in this jazz group and I was around I was in this particular group of kids at this honors jazz band, and there was other drummers and there was every, you know, musician of the big band. And they all went to these music schools. When I was in that group, I was like 17, 18, they all sounded the same. All the drummers sounded the same. They all wanted to play like a very specific style of jazz. They all sounded the same to each other, and I never did. And I never wanted to sound like them. And they chased a degree because I think part of them was scared to just start doing it in real life like we are. Yeah. We're here, we're doing these things. And to this day, a lot of them are still chasing the degree, which is great. I hope they're happy and I hope they're doing well. But I think they were scared to actually go out and do it for real. And I was never. I was like, I don't care what the challenge is, I'm gonna go do it. Yeah. I'm gonna put myself out there, put myself in these situations, because I'm sure they've gotten opportunities asked of them. Just like I'm talking about with this thing. Maybe not metal, but maybe something they're uncomfortable with. But it's the difference between the people who are willing to just throw it all in and be like, listen, I don't really play this style, but I can work for it because it's gonna allow me to keep playing music and keep playing drums and do this for a living. Or, no, it's not really my thing, man. Like, there's a difference.
Are you the kind of person that whenever has to face a situation like that, is afraid but does it anyways? Or you're just like, I'm not afraid? Do you have that complete confidence that erases the fear? I'm not afraid at all? Or
it's a combination. I think in the moment, I'm focused on what could come out of that and what's so awesome. And then of course, when you're practicing, you're like, oh shit, like, I don't know if I can do this. But it's so important to not get caught up in that, because the only thing stopping you is that fear.
Yeah.
It's the only thing, for me at least.
Yeah.
You know, and if I let myself get in that negative, we were talking the other night about just negative headspaces where like you can get yourself wrapped up in that and so anxious about it and freak out. But if you're just legitimately willing to work hard for it, it'll be fine. I just know that. That's what I hold trust in.
I like it, bro. I like it. And what I like about you, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you are breaking two of the biggest stigmas that there are on musicians right now. The first one is the influencer thing, because I bet in the beginning people was like, oh, you know, this, the YouTube guy plays whatever. Yeah. And then you need to prove yourself, which is already a pretty huge battle, because not only you need to be to do a musician's work, but you need to do twice a musician's work so that people will say like, okay, he's legit. But you're also breaking the stigmas of jazz. Oh, no, he's a jazz guy, and suddenly you are touring with one of the biggest metal bands ever, and you're doing a terrific job.
Yeah.
I feel like you play very good, but one of the biggest parts of your legacy is the fact that you just break the mold.
I did.
No, but it's true. I want you to think about that, brother. I really do want you to think about that, because that's fucking crazy, bro. And I also need to know, where do you get the motivation? You don't get tired right now, so that people know a little bit. This guy, you hadn't flooded your practice space. Was it like something?
Yeah, there was a very big leak in our house because we're redoing our kitchen in our house.
He stops because if he goes home and instead of resting, oh, this is fucked up. You take the kid, you move it somewhere else.
Into the garage.
You record whatever. That takes a little bit, brother.
Yeah.
You can just do it. Is it like motivation, dedication, or what the fuck is that?
It's very hard mentally, and I never really talk about it because it's so like, oh, like whatever, like what was me? But no, it's the public pressure and the public things that we do. I think so many people overlook. I think the expectations that we have placed upon ourselves by others and ourselves can be tough like that, where like you'll come home from tour and physically you're exhausted, but there's the kid a few years younger than me who's coming up who will be the next star.
Yeah.
You know, there's gonna be the next guy who gets that gig, and it's difficult. And I just, I'm just very aware of the things that I need to work on, which I think is good, because I'm never comfortable. I've never been like, I'm good. I'm chilling, like going home from tour. No, I'm gonna play like a week before the tour starts. I'm not like that. I've never been. Sometimes I'm haunted by it. Sometimes I wish I could chill, because there's times where like I've came home from tour and I'll be like antsy. I'll be really antsy on the couch, and why don't you just relax? Yeah. It's like, because I'm so used to just working and being driven and doing something, whether I'm going to the gym or I'm practicing or something, and it's hard to go from being on tour to not. Nobody really talks about that. Not enough people talk about like the differences between the go lifestyle that we do, and then all of a sudden you come home and you're like, it's 9 a.m. You don't have to really go anywhere. You're home, and it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, but no, because you have an extra pressure, because you are also an influence, like it or not. You have a huge following, you have a huge profile that you need to keep feeding, otherwise you will die. So most of the musicians, they go home and they can afford to go on the couch.
Yep.
And you go on the couch, you're going to see your numbers go down.
Yep. Yes.
You know it. You know it.
Oh, I know, but I don't go on that amount of huge, massive tours. I've toured, but not like you.
Yeah.
And you go home and you need to still.
Well, you know what I noticed?
This is the thing.
And it was really interesting, is at Sepultura, I learned a really big lesson. And what it was I think, and I know for a fact, I'm the best drummer the last day before I go on tour. I'm my best drummer of myself, I do before I go on tour. Because I've practiced, I've prepared, I've played a lot. We go on tour, all you're doing is playing those songs. You don't really have time to, you might have a practice kit in the dressing room, whatever, but you're not home, you're not practicing, you're stressed. And all you're doing is playing those, 18 songs. And you get really fucking good at playing those 18 songs.
Yeah.
But you can't play really anything else comfortably. You come home and you're like, this is like foreign to me. Like, you might, for me, it was like my improv, my jazz improv. So if anything, what I do to keep myself fresh is, if I just came home from Sepultura, I am not playing metal for a week.
Yeah.
I'm playing jazz. I'm playing things that I want to enjoy. Something else. And that's what, honestly, like doing the Whiplash thing and then doing the Sepultura, like keeping it so mentally stimulating because it's so different. The approach, the gear, everything is like a different, it's like a different instrument for me. So if anything, that keeps me fresh.
Now that because you are like peaking, not peaking in terms of now you're going down, but your life has been like this and you are now at the highest point ever. You have festivals all over the world. You are touring. You are doing everything that anyone would dream of being a drummer. Are you satisfied? Because I feel that people like you, not in a bad way, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel that people like you are never satisfied because there is like a hunger of let's fucking go for something else. Let's fucking go for something else constantly. Do you ever stop, or this constant touring doesn't allow you to stop and say like, we made it?
That's a really good question. And it's hard because honestly, like, it's something I've battled with in the past few months. Like, I never have had issues with that, like anxiety or anything, until recently. And I don't know if it's the pressure of touring and it's the pressure of the lifestyle, but I remember a few months ago, even my dad being like, you know, like, you gotta stop and like for a second and just like take in what you're doing. And I think it's the hunger to always be better that can kind of blur that.
Yeah.
And it's sad because like there's times where like you're saying like I should be so ecstatic 24/7 for what I'm doing. Because I am, I love this. There is that voice in your head of like, I could be better. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I can eat better. It's like, yeah, but like it's whatever day it is, we're in Germany, like we should be having a blast.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like this dichotomy of like, I'm satisfied, I'm very happy. But it can be difficult because I have a lot of people around me and I think everybody does who's always kind of like, what's next?
Yeah.
What are we doing next?
Yeah.
What's next? And sometimes I'm kind of like, you know what? I want to just worry about what's happening in like a month.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about what's happening in October.
Yeah.
I don't. Now, do I need to? Sometimes. But if anything, I'm trying to learn how to enjoy it. I'm trying to learn how to take it in. I think the answer is I'm satisfied, but I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied.
Okay. If you ever learn the trick about how to be satisfied, please, you hit me up. Hey, it's the body, remember? Yeah, I know the trick. Yeah, it was alcohol. It was alcohol all the way. Let's fucking do it.
I found the secret. Guess what?
Yeah. If you could go back in time as Greyson now and talk to the younger version of Greyson, let's say 10 years old, what piece of advice would you give him in order to make the whole process easier?
Not take life so seriously. Because there's times where I should have enjoyed things more than I did. Because I look back at my experiences between probably the last 5 years and I'm like, damn, that was actually amazing.
Yeah.
But I was so anxious and I was so stressed that I didn't enjoy it in the moment. And I look back and I'm like, I should have. And I'm glad I'm catching it now at 23.
That's the
Because you know what?
the thing.
I won't say when I'm 30, oh, when I was 23, I should have. I'm aware now.
Yeah.
But it's the conversation like we were talking about a few minutes ago where it's a battle. I think the biggest battle now is not honestly the playing. It's the dealing with this life. And it's the dealing with the pressure and it's dealing with how to navigate. Hey, you're home. Let's not freak out.
Yeah.
Let's like go for a run, go to the gym. Let's keep practicing. But you don't need to be on edge. You don't need to be antsy. You don't need to be like worrying about everything. You can just relax. Work hard, but enjoy it.
You got this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're super young, as you said. If this happened to you when you're 40, you're fucked.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but that's how life teaches everyone.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So fucking much for being here. If you have never seen Greyson performing live, please, pretty soon he's going to be close to you. I bet, doing whatever. So this is the master himself. This will be probably gold in 20 years because you're too fucking successful for your age. I don't even want to think what it'll be in 20 years. I hope we keep being friends.
Well, thank
for
you
the
for
first time.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for our friendship because that means the world.
Same thing. Love you, bro.
No, seriously, love you too. I'll see you soon, all right?
See you guys.
See you and see you. See you. Bye.
That was sweet. That was sweet.
Love you, buddy. That's sick.